Teachers of Reddit, what are some of the weirdest things you've confiscated from a student? A Ziploc bag of pink Crayola crayons that he sliced perfectly into small discs with a razor blade. He was trying to market them in the hallways as hallucinogenic pills. Small Tupperware container of swamp water. A pencil with a bunch of glued-on dick-shaped confetti. A taxidermied kookaburra. She taught herself how to do it from books. It was not done well. Student was trying to stick a large suction cup dildo like the ones you use in the shower to another student's locker. He actually asked what the problem was. A white lacy thong from a kindergartner. She was wearing it on her head. A vitamin B12 vape pen. Didn't know they existed. It was a 9-year-old. In class. Now watch the kids vaping e-cigs get shamed for not smoking a vitamin vape. My friend had his toasty machine banned just when he started to make a profit. Didn't confiscate anything, but I'm a sub. And a few weeks ago, I was at a rough school and I heard one kid whisper to another kid, "Hey, I'd like to place an order." Shit. So, I'm keeping an eye on him. And then another kid says, "Oh yeah, I need some too." I ask them what they're doing. The kid taking the orders says pizza. Sure. Anyways, I continue to eavesdrop. At one point, he's on his iPad and I sneak behind him to see what he's looking at. He is straight up on the Domino's website. I guess he had just gotten a job there and was using his discount or something, which I'm pretty sure his boss wouldn't be happy with, but it wasn't what I thought it was. A homemade arrow made with a pencil and a modified razor blade. A sugar glider. Kept hearing a high-pitched squeak in class. Noticed she had a small animal in her jacket pocket when it decided to poke its head out. A student brought one of these to my class. I teach college, so that was fine and I was super excited and she let me hold it. The students were busy doing some group work, and when they were just about done I went to hand it back to her. It then proceeded to leap down the front of my shirt and attach itself to my bra. So now I'm supposed to be lecturing again, but this girl's sugar glider is not only sitting in my cleavage, but running around under my shirt. More than half the class had no idea why I was distracted, or why I shoved my hand down between my boobs until I finally got the little guy out. The following year a different student's hedgehog peed on me. A nugget of weed wrapped in tin foil that a kid stole from his dad when he was mad at him. I teach little ones, so nothing nearly as risque as some of the others in this thread. I've confiscated handcuffs, a wrench, baby bottles, and a variety of bugs and small animals the kiddos caught out at recess. A colleague confiscated an adult movie from a 5-year-old. The kid didn't know what it was, didn't even know that it was a videotape, or anything about it. It just looked cool, the tape itself. He didn't know of the content. I taught English in South Korea for a year. One time I caught a kid doing the old comic book inside a textbook routine. I was surprised. I didn't know kids did that. After laughing I confiscated his comic book. In music class this kid Oliver pulls out a Matchbox car and starts playing. Teacher takes it, turn around, places it on piano, turns back. He's already gotten the next one out of his pocket and it back to playing. So she took it again. Rinse repeat. Funniest shit ever to an 8-year-old. We laughed so hard. A raccoon penis toothpick. He kept poking other kids with it. Sigh. What? I had to confiscate an 11th grader's laptop because she was going to mature-themed chat rooms during class. Specifically ones for married men looking to chat with young girls. Yeah, then, after she wasn't allowed to bring her laptop or phone to school anymore, she later got banned from school Chromebooks for doing it again. She was not very bright. When teaching pre-K I had to confiscate a grenade. There was very serious confusion and terror when I saw him and told my aide that Timmy is holding a grenade. No, not a toy. Timmy. Name confidential. What do you have there, buddy? He tells me excitedly that it's a grenade. I asked him where he got it and he said he found it in the trees by his house. You know, as you do in Midwest America. Just find grenades in the trees. I made him give it to me immediately. It turned out to be hollowed out and I believe it was a World War II pineapple grenade. His mom called maybe 4 hours later to tell us, hey, I forgot to mention Timmy wanted to bring his grenade to school. Y'all can just put it in his cubby." She also explained that he just found it. I still can't believe that happened. How do you just find a grenade? Why do you let your child bring it to school? So many other questions. It wasn't exactly a confiscation. Some of my students thought it would be a good idea to bring me 2 chickens. 2 live chickens. They knew my daughter had a pet duck that had recently died, so this was their idea to help us get past the grief. I had to keep them in a carrier in my classroom closet in the dark just so they would be quiet. The chickens, not the kids. By the end of the day I found a kid with a grandmother that had a farm. She took the chickens home. Camp counselor here. We have permission to go through bags to confiscate prohibited items like food and electronics and knives. One girl had a Tupperware full of what looked like the oldest peanut butter imaginable smeared all over the Tupperware. I brought it to my coworkers, and we all tried to smell it, but it smelled different to all of us. Literally no clue what this shit was. Asked the girl about it one day and she goes, that's my plant, like it's obvious. Apparently it was some kind of fungus or algae to apply to sunburns. Not confiscated but actually given as a gift. A bag of her hair, a bag of every strand of hair she's had cut since birth. Not a teacher but a kid brought a human skull to school. I think the teacher just had a conversation with him about it. The skull was real. The kid was a baddie. His folks were more likely meth cooks than doctors. It didn't get donated. The school in question was near a rural mountain area where a lot of people lived who wanted to be left alone. The provenance of the skull was, at the most conservative, dubious. My father took a cleaver off a student. My dad was doing lunch duty and saw the kid open his jacket and motion his buddies to have a look. Turns out there was going to be a fight after school. My dad knew the kid and asked him to step into the hallway. He got the cleaver off the kid and took him to the office. I'm not sure what his punishment was, but pre-Columbine, so who knows. A turtle. She had stolen it from the biology teacher's room and had it in the bathroom sink. An action figure with a picture of my face taped on the head. A little orange lizard in a box with a Charizard Pokemon card taped to it. To clarify, the card was taped to the box. A can of Axe. Only because he sprayed another student with it. And to be fair to the student doing the spraying, the other student had gym class the previous period, and had not changed out or showered. He did smell, in the words of the Axe spraying student, like a dead rotting moose. But after the spraying he smelled like a dead rotting moose that had been sprayed with Axe body spray. It was not an improvement. This happened in the classroom where someone once optimistically hung up a green apple-scented Wonderborn. That also did not help. The naked lady booby lighter. Kid was 7th or 8th grade in an alternative school setting. He was always sneaking stuff in his pockets and getting it taken up. We are walking to lunch and my assistant stops suddenly. He comes back with a metal naked woman torso in his hand. You could press one boob and the flame came out of the other. It was fantastic. It was super popular in the office for the few days until mom came to pick it up. She was really glad to get family heirloom back. Student here. A teacher confiscated a dildo from a student. This was in 7th grade. Not a teacher but someone who helps 5th graders adapting to their new school. We usually are a team of 5 or 6 older pupils who look after one class. Anyways, one day one of these kids wasn't paying attention to us and constantly playing with something under his desk. I then took it and it was 2 phones tied together back to back with rubber bands. To this day I don't know what this construction was for. They were having phone sex. Duh. I had to confiscate a 7th grader's iPad because he was looking up anime girl body pillows. Somewhat related. My wife got a kid banned from Chromebooks in school because he was trying to look at porn on them. But he was in middle school so he was really bad at it. So like, she saw him looking at inappropriate pictures and he said it was an accident, so she went into the search history. It was image search for girls, hot girls underwear, hot girls 6, hot girls sex. A bottle of passion fruit lube brought in by a 4-year-old, making all her friends smell her fruity hand cream. Poor mama must have had a long night and mixed up her eczema cream. A brick decorated with hentai in the locker of a 14-year-old boy. He was very different, that kid. Not a confiscation, but when my 4 to 5-year-olds were getting changed for PE, a little girl opened her bag and out fell a bunch of very sexy lingerie. 10 minutes later at the window I have a very red mum with the correct kit in hand saying she mixed up the dry cleaning with the daughter's PE kit. I pretended I hadn't seen. When I asked him why he brought it in, he said, for the skulls of my enemies. He didn't have friends, but not because he was odd. Even the odd kids hated his guts, but because he was horrible and obnoxious to everyone. Worked on his social skills with him for a long time and allowed him to run a manga club in my classroom Friday lunchtimes whilst I was in there. He made friends in the end and had a much nicer life since that club. Having a kid at 16 was the normal in the deprived area, so him having a family, his own place and a job he enjoys is good. He messages me on Facebook every now and then to check in and tell me how his life is. Just because that's not happiness to some of you, please do not shit on his. I'm not a teacher, but when I was in HS one of the teachers saw a kid snorting coke off his desk. Came by, slammed his hand on his desk and said no, told him to stay after class. Instead of reporting him to the principal and up his life, he threw away what was left in the baggie and basically told the kid he shouldn't do drugs and don't ever bring this shit into my classroom again. He threw it away. Until the student was gone, then it was party time. When I was in school, my English teacher confiscated 50 Shades of Grey off another pupil during our silent reading time. We would have been in year 7 or 8 at the time. My classmate, who was the dumbass class clown, tried to kick off about it and asked the teacher why it being taken away, and the teacher calmly said, "I'm not letting you read that. It's terribly written. It's as if it's been written by someone on a train." Similar thing occurred in my year 9 English class. Girl came in and started reading 50 Shades for silent reading. My teacher noticed and straight up said, "Emma, you can sit outside and read that." Emma then argues why, and teacher responds, "I wouldn't wipe my ass with that book, let alone allow that poorly written filth enter my class." Emma ended up reading it on the front step of the classroom. In the heat of Australian summer, she sure had tenacity. I'll give her that. That English teacher was hilarious. And a great teacher as well. I'm not a teacher, but my wife is. She once confiscated a school-issued iPad chock full of anime tentacle porn from a 13-year-old girl. Not weird but gross. I asked one of my students what they were chewing on. He said it was a balloon he found out at recess. It was not a balloon. A set of chicken scissors. You know, the kind that cut through bone. Not me, but my cousin confiscated a vibrating cock ring from a little boy wearing it as a bracelet. Student here. In grade 4, a student in my class brought his cat into class. Someone in my class brought a dead squirrel in his backpack and threw it at someone in the hallway. Not a teacher and not confiscated. But hey, dead squirrel story. A live white kitten. They had brought it in to give to their friend. The friend's parents had no idea and did not want a cat. These kids were 12 and 14, so I don't know where their common sense was. The cat was safely retrieved and went home with the principal for his son. When I was in middle school, we were forbidden to take writing utensils into the bathrooms because of a graffiti issue. So of course we couldn't take in our bags. Lucky me realized I had started my period in the middle of history. I very sneakily reached my hand in my bag, grabbed a tampon, and placed it in my pocket. I walked to the back of the room to ask the teacher to go to the restroom, and he laughed and said, "I saw you reaching in your bag. Hand over the marker and I'll let you go." After a moment of silence, I pull out the tampon and place it in his outstretched hand. He stares at it for a second before handing it back and quickly motioning towards the door. I'll never forget his face. Student here. Not really confiscated, but it was pretty funny. This happened back in year 7, aged 10 to 11. One of my friend named Sam regularly printed off pictures of attractive women and Sonic. He would take them home and probably bust a nut to them at the age of 10. Anyway, it was lunchtime, so me and my friends went to the computer room. Sam decided to use this time to print off a picture of a very busy woman wearing a bikini. By the way, this classroom was very open. I do not know how he managed to not get caught. Turns out the assistant principal was standing next to the printer and noticed the picture. I remember we were quietly laughing and telling Sam he is so She held up the picture in front of the room and asked who printed the pic off. Everyone in the room began to snicker to the point where she too tried to hold back a laugh. No one claimed responsibility, but eventually a new rule was put up. Those who print off pictures of a sexual nature and a court would have to do reception duty. Sam survived that event. Sadly, he disappeared in year 8, never to be seen by me or my friends. This was about 6 to 7 years ago. 3 condoms filled with mashed potatoes and lettuce. Not a teacher, but my cousin is, and she had to take a Ziploc bag full of vodka-soaked gummy bears from some freshman. Nothing like getting drunk at 8 in the morning. Not sure she was supposed to eat them after confiscating them. One of my students brought in a human anatomy textbook, and when he walked into class he has it open to the page with diagrams and anatomical drawings of the female genitalia. This was in 1st grade, by the way. I just held onto it for the day and sent it home with a note. This same student also brought a DVD copy of The Mummy during the first week of school.